24 hours ago, I was just a regular accounting manager at a mid-sized construction company. Now I'm sitting in a police station waiting to give another statement about my boss who's been arrested for embezzling over $2 million. And somehow I'm the one who exposed the whole thing. Let me back up and explain how this all started. I'm 29F and I work for Morrison Construction as a senior accounting manager. I've been there for 4 years and honestly loved my job. My boss, David Morrison, is the owner's son and basically runs the day-to-day operations while his dad focuses on the bigger picture stuff. David's 38, married with 2 kids, and has always been a really good boss. Professional, fair, never asked me to work crazy hours or do anything inappropriate. David and I have a good working relationship. He trusts me with a lot of responsibility and I handle most of the financial reporting and vendor payments. The company does really well. We build custom homes and commercial buildings, and business has been booming the last few years. About 6 months ago, David started asking me to handle more of the financial stuff directly with him instead of going through our CFO like we usually did. He said his dad wanted to streamline operations and reduce redundancy. Made sense to me, and honestly it felt like a promotion even though my title didn't change. I started noticing some things that seemed a little off, but nothing major. Like, we'd have invoices from subcontractors that seemed high for the work being done, or payments to vendors I didn't recognize. When I asked David about it, he'd always have an explanation, cost overruns, new suppliers, stuff like that. Construction can be unpredictable, so I didn't think much of it. Then about 3 months ago, David asked me to set up a new bank account for miscellaneous project expenses. He said some clients preferred to pay certain costs separately, and we needed a dedicated account to track them. He gave me all the paperwork already filled out and just needed my signature as an authorized user since I'd be managing the account. I signed the papers because, he's my boss and it seemed legitimate. The account started with a small balance, maybe $5,000, and I'd occasionally transfer money in or out based on David's instructions. Looking back now, there were definitely red flags I should have caught. But David had been my boss for 4 years, and I trusted him completely. Plus, construction accounting can be complicated with all the different contractors and project-specific costs. 2 weeks ago, things started getting weird. David asked me to stay late one Friday to help him with some urgent financial reports. We worked until about 8 p.m., and during that time, he kept asking me really specific questions about our accounting software and how transactions were recorded. Not like he was checking my work, but more like he was trying to understand exactly how everything got tracked. He also asked me to show him how to access the miscellaneous account online and make transfers. I thought it was weird because he'd always just told me what transfers to make before, but he said he wanted to be more hands-on with that account going forward. The following Monday, I got an email from our main bank saying there was a problem with one of our regular vendor payments. Apparently a check had bounced because of insufficient funds, which made no sense because I'd just done our monthly cash flow report and we had plenty of money. When I logged into our main account, I saw that someone had transferred $50,000 out over the weekend. The transfer was authorized with David's login, so I figured he'd moved money for some project I didn't know about. But it was weird that he hadn't mentioned it, especially since it caused the bounce check. I sent David an email asking about the transfer so I could update our records properly. He came to my office an hour later looking really stressed. "Oh, right, that transfer," he said. "It was for the Henderson project. Emergency foundation repair. I had to move fast because the contractor needed payment immediately." That seemed plausible, but something about his demeanor was off. He was fidgety and kept looking around like he was worried someone would overhear us. "Should I code it to Henderson project expenses?" I asked. "Actually, can you hold off on recording it for now? The client is still finalizing how they want the billing structured. I'll let you know how to handle it next week." That was really unusual. David never asked me to delay recording transactions. We always prided ourselves on keeping our books current and accurate. Last Thursday, I discovered something that made my stomach drop. I was reconciling our accounts and noticed that the miscellaneous account had a balance of $180,000. That was way higher than it had ever been. When I checked the transaction history, I saw multiple large deposits over the past month, all transfers from our main operating account. The deposits totaled almost $300,000, but there were also several withdrawals I didn't recognize. Cash withdrawals of $10,000 and $15,000, wire transfers to accounts I'd never seen before. The current balance of $180,000 meant that $120,000 had been taken out of the account without me knowing about it. I immediately went to David's office to ask about it. His door was closed and his assistant said he was on an important call, but I could see through the glass that he was just sitting at his desk looking at his computer. When I knocked, he looked up with this startled expression before waving me in. "David, I need to ask you about the miscellaneous account. There's been a lot of activity. I wasn't aware of. His face went completely pale. What kind of activity? I showed him the transaction history on my laptop. As he looked at it, I watched his expression change from confusion to panic to something that looked like anger. There must be some mistake. Let me look into this and get back to you. Should I contact the bank? If someone got unauthorized access to the account dash. No, he said quickly. Don't contact anyone yet. I need to figure out what's going on first. Can you just keep this between us for now? Until I can sort it out. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. David was always transparent about business issues, and he definitely would never ask me to hide financial irregularities. I went back to my office and spent the rest of the day digging deeper into our recent transactions. What I found made me sick. Over the past 6 months, almost $800,000 had been moved from our main accounts into the miscellaneous account through dozens of smaller transfers. Most of the money had then been withdrawn in cash or wire transferred to external accounts. But the really damaging part was how the transfers were disguised in our main accounting system. They were coded as payments to legitimate vendors and subcontractors, but when I cross-referenced them with actual project expenses, none of them matched up. Someone had been systematically stealing money from the company and making it look like normal business expenses. And the only person besides me who had access to make those kinds of transactions was David. I felt like I was going to throw up. My boss, someone I trusted and respected, had apparently been embezzling from his own family's company. And somehow I'd been unknowingly helping him by managing the account he was using to hide the money. I didn't sleep at all that night. I kept thinking about how to handle this. David was not just my boss, but the owner's son. If I was wrong about this somehow, my career would be over. But if I was right and I didn't report it, I could be seen as complicit. Friday morning, David was out of the office. His assistant said he had client meetings all day. I spent the morning triple-checking my analysis, hoping I'd made some mistake. But everything pointed to the same conclusion. Around noon, I decided I had to talk to someone. I called our CFO, Michael, and asked if I could meet with him privately. Michael's been with the company for over 10 years, and I've always respected his judgment. When I showed him what I'd found, his reaction was immediate. "Holy crap," he said, scrolling through the transaction history. "How long has this been going on?" "Based on what I can see, about 6 months. But David's been having me handle more financial stuff directly with him instead of going through normal channels. It's possible it started earlier, and I just couldn't see it." Michael was quiet for a long time, studying the documents. Finally, he looked at me with this really serious expression. "You realize what this means, right? David's been stealing from his own father. This isn't just embezzlement. It's going to destroy their family." "I know, but what am I supposed to do? Pretend I didn't see it?" "No, you're absolutely right to bring this to me. But we need to be really careful about how we handle this. If David realizes we know, he might try to cover his tracks or blame you somehow." We decided that Michael would approach David's father, Mr. Morrison, on Monday morning. In the meantime, I was supposed to act normal and not let David know I'd discovered anything. That plan lasted exactly 12 hours. At 3:17 a.m. Saturday morning, I got a text from David. "Emergency with Henderson Project. Need you to meet me at the Marriott downtown, room 412. Bring the miscellaneous account records. ASAP." I stared at that text for like 10 minutes. Why would David need me to meet him at a hotel at 3 a.m.? Why not wait until Monday and meet at the office? And why did he specifically want the miscellaneous account records, the same records that proved he'd been stealing money? Everything about this felt wrong. But David was still my boss, and if there really was some emergency, I couldn't just ignore it. I got dressed and drove to the Marriott. The whole way there, I kept thinking about how weird this was. What kind of construction emergency requires meeting at a hotel in the middle of the night? When I got to room 412, I knocked softly. David opened the door immediately, like he'd been waiting right behind it. He looked terrible, unshaven, disheveled, still wearing the same clothes from Friday. "Thank God you came. Come in quick." The hotel room was a mess. There were papers scattered all over the bed and desk. David's laptop was open with multiple windows showing bank websites and financial documents. It looked like he'd been up all night working on something. "David, what's going on? What's the emergency?" He closed the door and turned to face me. That's when I saw the look in his eyes. Desperate, panicked, but also something that looked almost angry. "I know you've been looking into the miscellaneous account." My heart started pounding. I was just doing my job, reconciling the accounts like always. "Cut the crap, Sarah. I know you found the transfers. I know you know what's been going on." I didn't know what to say. He was standing between me and the door, and suddenly I felt really scared. "David, if there's been some kind of mistake with the accounting dash." "It's not a mistake," he snapped. "I've been taking the money, okay? But it's not what you think." He started pacing around the small room, running his hands through his hair. My dad is going to sell the company. He's been in talks with a bigger construction firm for months. Once that sale goes through, everyone's going to lose their jobs, except for a few people they keep on. I've been trying to save up enough money to start my own company and hire back as many people as possible. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So you've been stealing from your own father? I've been borrowing money that I was going to inherit anyway. The company is going to be sold and split up. At least this way, some of the money goes toward keeping people employed. David, that's still embezzlement. You can't just take money without authorization, even if you plan to pay it back. I know how it looks, but I was going to replace it all before anyone noticed. I've got investors lined up for the new company. I just needed a few more months. He stopped pacing and looked at me with this pleading expression. That's why I need your help. I need you to help me clean up the records and make everything look normal until I can get the money back. You want me to help you cover this up? I want you to help me fix this before it destroys everyone's lives. My dad, my family, all the employees who are going to lose their jobs anyway. You think turning me in is going to save anyone? I felt sick. David, I can't help you hide embezzlement. That would make me a criminal too. You're already involved. You set up the account. You manage the transfers. If this comes out, you think you're not going to be blamed too. That hit me like a punch to the stomach. He was right that I'd been involved in setting up the account and handling some of the transfers. If this became a criminal case, would the police believe that I didn't know what was happening? Look, David continued, I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. I just need you to buy me some time. Don't report this to anyone for 2 weeks. By then I'll have the investor money, and I can put everything back. No one gets hurt. No one goes to jail. And if I don't agree, David's expression hardened. Then we both go down. I'll tell everyone you were my partner in this. Who do you think they're going to believe? The owner's son or the employee who had access to all the accounts? I realized I was in serious trouble. David was basically threatening to frame me if I didn't help him cover up his crimes. I need to think about this, I said. There's nothing to think about. Either you help me fix this quietly, or we both get destroyed when it comes out. Those are your only options. Let me go home and process this. I'll give you an answer tomorrow. David stared at me for a long moment. You're not going to tell anyone about this conversation, right? I just need time to think. Sarah, I'm serious. If you say anything to anyone before I can fix this, I will make sure you go down with me. I have documentation showing you set up the account and authorized transfers. It'll look like we were working together from the beginning. I nodded and headed for the door. My hands were shaking as I tried to open it. Sarah, David called after me. I'm sorry it came to this, but I'm trying to save people's jobs here, including yours. I got out of there as fast as I could. Update, 12 hours later. I spent the entire morning pacing around my apartment, trying to figure out what to do. David was threatening to frame me if I reported him, but if I helped him cover it up, I'd be committing actual crimes. Finally, I decided I had to tell someone, regardless of the consequences. I called Michael and asked him to meet me somewhere private. We met at a coffee shop across town, and I told him everything about the hotel meeting. Michael was horrified. He threatened you? This is way worse than just embezzlement now. But what if he's right about me being blamed? I did set up that account and handled transfers. Sarah, you were following instructions from your boss. No one's going to think you masterminded this. But if you help him cover it up now, that's when you become a real accomplice. Michael convinced me that we needed to contact Mr. Morrison immediately, regardless of it being Saturday. This couldn't wait until Monday. We drove to Mr. Morrison's house around 2 p.m. When we told him what was happening, I thought he was going to have a heart attack. He went completely white and had to sit down. My son has been stealing from the company, he kept repeating. And he threatened an employee? I showed him all the transaction records I compiled. As he looked through them, his expression went from shock to heartbreak to anger. $2 million, he said quietly. He's taken over $2 million. It might be more, I said. This is just what I can document from the past 6 months. Mr. Morrison called his lawyer immediately. The lawyer said we needed to contact the police right away, especially because David had threatened me. If he's willing to threaten employees, there's no telling what else he might do to cover this up, the lawyer said. Mr. Morrison looked like he'd aged 10 years in one afternoon. I have to have my own son arrested. The police came to Mr. Morrison's house around 4 p.m. I gave them a full statement about everything I discovered and about the hotel meeting. They said David's actions constituted embezzlement, money laundering, and possibly intimidation of a witness. They went to arrest David at the hotel. Apparently, he was still there, and they found him trying to delete files from his laptop when they arrived. Update, 1 week later. David was charged with embezzlement, money laundering, and witness intimidation. The amount they think he stole is actually closer to $2.4 million once they traced all the transactions. His lawyer is trying to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor says the case is too serious for a slap on the wrist. The whole thing has been a nightmare for the Morrison family. Mr. Morrison is devastated that his son would steal from the family business and then try to threaten an employee to cover it up. David's wife filed for divorce and took the kids to stay with her parents in another state. As for me, the police confirmed that I'm not under investigation. They said it was obvious I was an unwitting participant who did the right thing by reporting the crimes when I discovered them. But the drama isn't over. David's lawyer is apparently arguing that I was more involved than I claimed, trying to shift some blame onto me to get David a better deal. It's not working. The evidence clearly shows I had no idea what was happening until I started asking questions about the account discrepancies. The company is in chaos. We've had to notify all our clients about the embezzlement, and several contracts have been put on hold while people figure out if we're financially stable. Mr. Morrison had to take out a massive loan to cover the stolen money and keep operations running. The worst part is that David was partially right about one thing. Mr. Morrison was considering selling the company, but not because business was bad. He was thinking about retiring and wanted to make sure the employees were taken care of with a larger company that could offer better benefits. Now, because of David's theft, the company is in such financial trouble that selling might be the only option to avoid bankruptcy. The irony is that David's plan to save everyone's jobs by stealing money has actually put everyone's jobs in jeopardy. Update: 1 month later. David pled guilty to all charges and got sentenced to 4 years in prison plus restitution. The judge said the witness intimidation charge was what pushed the sentence from the lower end to the higher end of the guidelines. During his sentencing, David actually tried to give the speech about how he was trying to save the company and protect employees. The judge shut him down pretty quickly and said that noble intentions don't justify stealing millions of dollars and threatening witnesses. The company managed to avoid bankruptcy, but barely. Mr. Morrison ended up selling to the larger firm he'd been talking to, but at a much lower price because of the financial damage from embezzlement. Most employees kept their jobs, but several management positions were eliminated. As for me, the new owners offered me a promotion to controller, basically taking over a lot of David's former responsibilities. The salary increase is substantial, and they said my handling of the embezzlement situation showed the kind of integrity they want in their leadership team. It's weird how this whole nightmare ended up advancing my career. If David hadn't tried to involve me in his cover-up, I might never have proven myself capable of handling this level of responsibility. I still think about that hotel room sometimes. What would have happened if I'd agreed to help him? Would we have gotten away with it? Or would the whole thing have come crashing down eventually anyway? I'm glad I'll never have to find out. The scariest part is that David seemed genuinely convinced he was doing the right thing. He wasn't some cartoon villain. He was a guy I respected who made progressively worse decisions until he was threatening employees and stealing millions of dollars. I learned that you can never really know someone completely, and that doing the right thing isn't always easy or safe. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. When it mattered, I chose to do what was right even when it was scary. David destroyed his own life and nearly destroyed his family's business. But somehow, in the aftermath of his terrible choices, I ended up in a better place than I started. Life's weird like that sometimes.